All right, so let's go start it. All right, hey now, and how are you doing? Want to welcome you to the next episode of Peace, Love, and Bring Up Bat. Today is one of the men I really admire. I've heard him speak three, four times, and every time has come together to be like, wow, like taking notes or like so alignment. I want you to meet my friend Jeremy Howell. How you doing this morning, Jeremy?
Loving life, brother. Loving life.
All right. Well, thank you so much for giving us the opportunity to learn a little bit about your Moxy mindset. That was one of the things that as preparing for this interview, I was thinking, that first time when we met in Delaware, you didn't know anybody, and then you started talking about Kaizen, the Kaizen mindset, and thinking about that 1%, and then moving forward from that, and then we've built something that you and your wonderful wife Stephanie and the amazing work you do. So why don't you tell everybody a little bit about yourself if they don't know?
Yeah, I mean, I'll start at the beginning, right? My entrepreneurial journey started in prison. Okay, and no, I wasn't an inmate. I was working there, and that's where I met Stephanie, my wife, which is a pretty cool conversation starter at family events. You know what I mean? Like, hey, where'd y'all meet? Like, let me tell you, met in prison. Um, but I often say that that Stephanie broke me out of prison because she was in medical and she wanted to start a business in the medical field, assisted living. So assisted living, I didn't even know what that was, but I supported her. I said, "Yeah, go for it. I want you to get out of this prison." But I jokingly say she broke me out of prison. But what happened was I jumped from one prison to another, which is business ownership. Okay, I didn't realize um, how hard it was to own and operate a business and dedicate your life to it because that's what it takes, at least at first. If you're starting out and you don't know anything, you dedicate your life to it. Um, but through that business, we have we've built multiple businesses time and time again. And that led me to where I am today, speaking on stages around the world and meeting awesome people like you, and coaching people because of where I've been.
Yeah, no, so the journey is definitely really interesting. How we find it again in prison. Neither one of you are there as a guest. Well, you guys were there as a guest. I mean, you were a guard, and you learned a lot about how to handle people differently than you might handle them today, but definitely still learning those things. What
Yeah,
is
for
one
sure.
of what is one of the things that you learned that you would have loved to have told your younger self?
Um, Man, so many things if I could go back. But the biggest one is a quote that I hang on to. It's from Zig Ziglar. And I try to bring this up anywhere I can because it helped me so much when I heard this quote and I live by it. It's that you don't have to be great to start, but you have to start to be great.
And what does that mean to you? But,
Don't wait till you have it all figured out.
mm,
Don't wait till it's perfect. Don't wait for the environment to be perfect, you to have it all figured out, the education piece of what it is that you want to do. Learn enough to see a clear picture and then dive headfirst. Do not wait till it's perfect. And I think uh, that's what entrepreneurship taught me throughout the years is that I was trying to make it perfect, even though I was acting, right? Is because my wife, she was really the entrepreneur. I was hanging on like with white knuckles,
yep.
everywhere she went, I'm like white knuckled trying to figure out how to support her and her business. And then I realized the reason why I haven't started businesses and stuff like that is because I was afraid to act. She wasn't.
Mm.
I wanted it to be perfect before I did something. So that quote, that's what that means to me is, and she taught me everything I know about business, still to this day. I say everything, but I would say the things that really matter in entrepreneurship, I learned from Stephanie. And a lot of people don't know that.
Yeah. I remember seeing how close you were and then talking to you originally. That first time to, how you have that halfway house that, you followed her dream originally. I don't know, going forward, I know you've built a little empire from that dream to step away from the career that you had. What type of moxie does it take to do that? How'd you plan that out?
Well, like I said, I was white knuckled everywhere. She had the plan, and she's seen it very clearly. And one of the things that she taught me, the biggest thing that she taught me, I would say in business, is vision. Okay, if you have the vision, the details don't matter. They'll come if you put the action in. That is what I should say. The details do matter, but they don't matter. Like the next step doesn't matter in a sequence. You just have to know that next one to get to that vision, if that makes sense. So she,
100%. Yeah.
yeah, she taught me that if you can hold that vision long enough, you'll get it.
Right, but
And
if you could see yourself doing it, I mean, it's one of those things that one of my blended daughters had rode horses, and they said the horse will ride exactly the way that the rider tells it to. And it's not just by the reins. Everybody thinks the reins, which are very important, but also you have to look when you want to make the horse turn, you have to look towards that way. So the horse knows that. The horse really becomes one with you. And the same thing with entrepreneurship and leadership. The leader has to already know where they're going. It might not work, but you have to see that vision, and to go back to
I would say, yeah, I would say you can always get the vision. You can always meet the vision. If you have a vision, I believe it comes from God. This is part of my faith behind Moxie, right? And if anybody doesn't know, whoever's listening, what Moxie means, it means determination or perseverance. Now, to me in my coaching program, we take that up 10 notches. Okay. It means more than that. It means I don't care what I have to do to get to that vision. I'm going to pivot a million times if I have to. I'm going to stick with it long enough till I realize this isn't working anymore, and then I'm going to pivot to get to that vision. That's Moxie mindset, right? So I say that to say this. Two things it takes to be extremely successful in life. Just two. Is being extremely hard-headed and extremely flexible.
Yep, 100%.
Right? I'm really hard-headed about my vision, but I'm extremely flexible about how I get there.
Right, because you have to know what your vision is. If you know you have to do something, I was just talking to our mutual friend Mike Faber, right? I was talking to Mike about it, and I said, I've quit a million times. That's it. I'm done. I'm not gonna do any of this. Then I sit and I'm like, dude, is this what you really think you're gonna do? Just sit. And I'm like, no, just you have to take that breath, that pause. It becomes so powerful, but you have to have that vision. Like all the crazy things I did with the comic book and all the opportunities, I see it before it happens. It's, where you and I have had that conversation. Some of it comes from God. There's no way around it that His favor, even this whole thing with my heart. It was just telling you, in the green room, and I'm going to be talking about this on the podcast a lot. There's no way I should have been here. You could have said boo to me. I had two blocked main arteries and 98%, and I didn't have a heart attack. My heart, the muscles are still good. So the doctor was amazed. He goes, but the rest of your heart is clear. But it's those two blockages. The metaphor goes, but I said, that's God. And even the day that I found out about it, one of my friends who had gone through serious surgeries called me up out of the blue. Dave, how's it going on? And I go, you're a witch. I go, so he called me up, like, what's going on? And we used other language and stuff. But it's the reminder and what is important. And that was one of the things before I knew about your faith that I knew that you always had that focus. When we had that first conversation, I remember it was during lunch. We were eating some barbecue, in Georgetown, Delaware, and
Yeah,
um, you had that determination. You have that. How did you get that? Most people aren't born with that type of determination or focus.
that's a good question. I would say, when you have a vision and you persevere to get it, it builds your faith.
Mm,
And it is spiritual, like we talked about. I believe that that's from God. When I get a vision that's really clear, if I'm able to nail down like exactly how that looks and then I can share it, I believe that comes straight from God. Um, and I believe God will allow you to have it if you have that Moxy mindset. If you have that perseverance inside of you that says, I'll get there. I'll get there. I don't care how I get there. I don't care when I get there, but I know I'm gonna get there. Right. And I think God will move mountains. He'll arrange people. He'll set up obstacles to keep you from areas that you're not supposed to go. Right. And this is my faith. I know we share similar views when it comes to God, which I love our conversations. But yeah, there's been times where um, it gets hard, and even recent seasons where it gets so hard and discouraging. But I think what separates me and Stephanie and the Moxie tribe and the group that I surround myself with is that we don't give up. We don't give up easy. We'll go to hell and back, knowing that we are called to do something. And like I said, I'll be really hard headed about the vision, but I'm extremely flexible about how I get there. So I don't put pressure on myself a whole lot as far as time and how, you know. Um, but I've learned that, to answer your question. I learned that through time and time again, purposely catching the vision and then having it come to pass. Okay, that grows your faith.
sure.
I've even had, to be honest with you, I even had situations that were like dire, like there, it could have only been God if this happened,
Yeah.
right? And sure enough, it happened, and that grows your faith, and it lets you know if God's with you, who could be against you? And I know a lot of people take that out of context, you know, they use it as kind of like a reckless quote to
Yep.
do whatever they want in life. Um, I believe everybody should have a personal relationship with God, whatever that looks like for you, because that's what He seeks. He seeks that. He created us, and He made us to be creators.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, that's where you and I have had that conversation.
Mhm.
God isn't, yeah, God's my co-pilot and all that. I get all those comments, but that doesn't mean a relationship, right? You could have anybody. You could pick up a hitchhiker, and they could be your co-pilot, right?
Mhm.
But it's that personal relationship. I mean, you
Yeah.
know, uh, even with my experience, I mean, ironically, right, 6 years ago, part of my story was I purposely, when I attempted suicide, it was a day of faith in Judaism, right before the high holy days in September. That's when God, the story goes, God writes your name in the book for the next year. And I said, nope, I'm taking my pen out of God's hand. I get chills now. And I
Mhm.
attempted suicide. I tried. I researched, man. I did some serious stuff, and God was like, nope. And I even saw a vision while I was attempting suicide. It's not your time. Go your story. It wasn't God. The person I had identified, but I know God was with me, and I know God has been with me since that point. And through that point, I just trust it every now and then. Like I said earlier, I might quit. I might get frustrated. You're carrying things. I don't have a wonderful partner like Stephanie to, help lift up. But I'm determined. I know what I do because when I show up in my God's spirit, when I'm aligned with God, then the right things happen. I mean, like again, this heart condition, there's a lot of people who don't walk away from that. And I was lucky, again, blessed, just how everything aligned perfectly. And the funny thing is, when this episode will launch next week on May 11th, or the week of May 11th, um, I'm also not only I've already recorded in this healing period that they're telling me to sit and do nothing. I've recorded almost 12 episodes of the podcast. I've finished 4 of my books, non-AI books. It's like I'm just editing. I mean, in the hospital, my kids brought me my laptop, and they were like, the nurses come in. We don't want you to really work. You really need to relax. I go, I'm writing a book. They're like, what? I go, yeah, you could read it. It's not a lie. I'm just editing my books. And that's where I put my faith. I said, God, while years ago, and this is where I was going with this, years ago, I wanted to take the pen out of your hand. And once I accepted that the pen is not in my hand no matter what, if it doesn't want to happen, it doesn't happen, and that my work wasn't finished. And now, while I'm not as religious, but I love talking about God, I know my story is not finished, and there's people that I have helped since that moment, and because of that moment, it goes forward. So, what is something that you do that might have happened that puts you on the right path? Not only by saying yes to Stephanie, to that date, to that connection, but there's a lot more as a leader. I know that there's times that people look up to you, and you're in that moment.
I had to hit rock bottom. And my rock bottom's different than a lot of people's stories about rock bottom. My rock bottom was business. Once I hit rock bottom, I submitted.
Hmm.
Okay. In that submission, God transformed me over years. It wasn't instantaneous. Now, there was an instantaneous spirit shift, but I was a poor leader before that moment, and God rebuilt me into the leader I am today. And I still feel like I have a million years of growth left, right? But that's what separates me from the old Jeremy.
Hmm.
Because I thought I had it figured out. I was on a fixed mindset. You couldn't teach me anything new. I was who I was. Put up with it.
Yep.
So I had a shift, and that could have only been God. It's because I submitted and I seeked Him. Now, I'm not perfect. I'm not religious. I'm spiritual. That's different. Jesus went against the religious norms of his day. That was part of the plan, right? But he instructed us to follow his lead. And he tells us to teach others to do the same. Go and make disciples.
Yep.
Go and make disciples means teach what I have taught you, right? Not trying to over explain this, but I'm not religious. Just want to point that out. And I actually get attacked about that from time to time from Christians claiming that their denomination is superior to others and that I should, take the red pill or blue pill, whatever they're trying to feed me, and just get in line. Well, Jesus didn't do that. So I model everything I do after Jesus. That's why I have a council of coaches, right? I have 12 areas of impact in business. And it's serious, real deal impact that I use myself on all my businesses, and the council of coaches do the same. We don't just talk it, we live it. I've had a few things happen in my business recently. One of them being cash flow interruption.
Hmm.
Huge operation, hundreds of thousands of dollars coming through our hands. And all of a sudden, cash flow interruption. That kills most businesses.
Sure.
But within a week, as soon as we identify what the problem was, we're right back in the black, right? That's a testimony to the tribe that we have built. I say we because it's not just me. I'm the founder, sure, but it's because of the other people I surround myself with. We have the same mindset. That's why it's called Moxy Mindset. And I want to push back on you a little bit. You say you don't have a Stephanie in your life, right? And I get that. Stephanie's close proximity to me. We share everything together. But you have a community of people
Sure.
that care about you, that do
100%.
not want you to stop. That they
100%.
see your calling too. They see your energy that you bring to the table. So instead of having that mindset shifted a little bit and say, how can I leverage the community to make sure I don't quit? Because that is hard. That is hard. I go through so much, even with me and Stephanie. Things seem hard where you want to put it down.
Hmm. Sure.
But when you have the mindset of saying, I don't care how bad it gets, I will never put it down because I'm stupid stuck on the vision. I am going to get there. Now, another thing you said is, getting kind of burnout and putting it down and taking a break.
Hmm.
Well, that's why we curated a room just for that in Jamaica. High level entrepreneurs need a place to step back, not a retreat. I don't call it a retreat. I call it a reset. Step back, have the time of your life in paradise while you grow. So when you hit back into the business, you have a plan and the energy to tackle it. I believe everybody. That's why I do it. Is because me and Stephanie, that's our ritual. We don't grind to stay in the grind. We might hustle and grind in moments to get things back in their lane, but you got to be able to reset. You got to be able to step back, take in a deep breath, and say, "This shit's been hard, but that's okay. I'm gonna refocus."
No, I agree with you. One wholeheartedly, and that's among the things I learned. I had a nice corporate career,
Mhm.
and I always wanted to do the entrepreneur thing. And until I lost that job, then they eliminated that job. Right? It wasn't that I lost it. Uh, you start getting these things, and even now, so then I stepped in from one place to working with Morris, and doing that really, stepped me into another job. But that wasn't what I learned recently from that. Not I learned a little more leadership, but I also learned that I was spreading myself. I was trying to work to too many masters,
Mm,
and I want to do the entrepreneur thing. That's the thing that God gave me back. That God has really brought me some amazing things, and and then looking at those things, how I want to go forward, and he's shown me. So they said rest, sit. They don't want me to do anything until I get it back into the cardiac rehab.
mhm.
But they're making me sit, and I'm loving my business. Like the other day, I worked, I don't know, 14 hours, 16 hours just on my things, getting things organized. I mean, really, most podcasts, as you know, end after, most people don't even make 14 episodes. I'm going to be dropping 12 to 14 on Monday or that week.
Oh
So, like,
wow.
yeah, I mean, and on top of that, a couple of books that were already written, but I never took the time to edit it. I was like, all right, they're written. I have to edit it, or I couldn't do it. It's even one of the regrets that I have, and I I'll rectify that at one point. Um, Missing out on being one of the founding members of the Moxie Mindset. I remember us talking, and I have I've gotten, I've invested in a lot of different communities, and everybody wants to have a community, and you don't know which communities are going to be good. And at the beginning, I invested in the wrong communities,
Mhm.
and we knew each other just a little bit, and now I've gotten to know you much, much better. I mean, that's why on the last time we were physically in the same place, I wanted to make sure that you and I had some time to just sit down and talk. I enjoy our conversations. that's one of my regrets. I'm like, and I'm going to rectify it. And when will I be at a Jamaica event? For sure. I know this year you're also doing Costa Rica, which is geared for business mindset, while it's in Costa Rica. So I'm still hoping to do that. Let me see health wise. But
Yeah.
the person and the things that you do are different than anybody else. That vision of yours is curated, and the people that you have. So how do you find your coach of your counsel, your disciples?
Yeah. So that was actually an interesting process. I started out with six of them, six coaches plus me. But because I draw such a clear line in the sand about what it is exactly Moxie is and how we're going to move together, we're down to three total, me and two other coaches,
Yep.
and that fits perfect for what we're doing in Moxie, and we have pieced together what makes each one of us different in our strengths to bring the 12 areas of impact of Moxie. And we really took our time looking at exactly what it is that any business, now every business is different. That's why you get the live coaching, right? But there's 12 areas that any business that they should at least look at. How can I implement this piece into my business? Am I already doing it? Can I make it better? Do I have to have that? Right? Do I have to have that piece in there? So through that process, they find how they can make their business a well-oiled machine that serves them in a way that they don't work in the business, they work on the business. They're the architect. They're not the engine after the 12 areas of impact.
Yeah, which is so important, because, and I explain this to a lot of entrepreneurs and people who own their solo businesses. Either you're always working for somebody, but if you can automate it and have other people and delegate, part of leadership is delegation. It's not just saying I'm a leader and I'm going to show you what I'm going to do. It's good. You're really about I'll show you what to do when I'm needed, but I want to teach you how to do it. I mean, again, not to get too religious, but Jesus, that's why he had his disciples. He really had. I'm going to teach you the word that he had, and you go out and spread it. He didn't say, I have to go take care of everybody. He would have never been able to do it, and nobody could do that.
Yeah, so that I would say that's one of my biggest strengths, especially within Moxie, is that the reason why I have so many businesses is because I'm really good at two main things. Okay, actually three, but let's just name the two that you mentioned: leadership and delegation. Okay, so 80% of people leave their job not because of money. The top reason why people leave their job is leadership. Money's number three on the totem pole. What do you think number two is?
Being respected.
Well, yes, in a certain way,
Sure.
right? So the main factor of number two am is what I'm doing making a difference, right? So respect of their self. Are they respecting their self enough to say what I'm doing is important? Guess whose job that is to show them that?
The leader.
The number one reason. So basically, the first two reasons why somebody would leave an organization is due to leadership. Okay. So that tells me a lot about development. So I develop my people as leaders in their own department. That's how you delegate properly. They're not overall leadership. They don't want that. But what they do want is they want to be given a task, be trusted with it, understand the clear outcome, and support to figure it out themselves, have the training to where they can say, this is this, and this equals this. Now I trust you to do it. Don't drop the ball. It is now on you. That's proper delegation. Most people do not delegate. They tell them what to do. They expect them to understand everything that you expect. And then when it doesn't happen, they get upset. Now, this causes an employee to never think for themselves again.
Right.
So instead of delegating, you taught that person, that employee underneath you, to have you decide everything. They will not make a call on their own because they don't want to feel stupid. Empowerment is the center of delegation, right? If they're empowered to do the job and get the outcome that's desired by the organization, and you give them the right tools and trust, what's the next best thing? I'm gonna ask you this question. What's the next best thing besides love? What's the best feeling you can think of next to love?
Joy. You know,
Okay, sure.
the confidence. I mean, there's a lot of things that I go through. You know, I don't want to say success because success doesn't always mean. It's
That's good.
but
No, I like joy. Joy is a good one. Joy is a good one. I would say in terms of like workplace, next to love is trust.
yeah,
If you feel trusted, you feel a little bit loved, don't you?
so
Like my employer loves me, or at least cares about me, because he trusts me to do the job. If you portray that the right way, you will not be able to stop that employee from executing time and time again. Okay? So that's the art of delegation, broken down really super fast. It's not that easy in real life. It takes time and clear, concise. And then I would say after that, what keeps delegation, the systems in check, is inspecting what you expect.
yeah,
A lot of people don't do that either until something bad happens and then they blow up again. Okay, and what this does is demoralizes the workforce. I want to empower, not demoralize.
yeah, right. And part of that is part of that communication, right? Trust is based on communication and knowing that you're aligned. And part of leadership is explaining what needs to get done. And not only the task, but maybe how to get there for somebody who might have a different vision and being open to that other vision.
Or trusting them to get there against training. If they get the same outcome and you point out the reasons why we do it this way and you have a better way, I'm all ears.
Yeah.
Right? So I would say the third thing that I became an expert at is systems.
Mm.
So systems will literally break the handcuffs off of you within your business. And I check my systems regularly. That's why I go to Costa Rica and Jamaica and, you know, all these other awesome places and go around the world speaking, is because that's a chance for me to check what I already have in place. Because I don't want to be the one to put my finger on everything, but I have to inspect what I expect. So when I step away for a week, 2 weeks, a month, I can still see my systems working, right? But when I come back, I'm going to have a new insight on something that, because I stepped away to check them, where I need to tighten my systems up. And that fine tuning, just like a mechanic. You ever had a good mechanic that just knew right where to go when he heard a sound?
Yep.
That's how you should be in your business.
It's a
You
recalibration. Yep.
before even opening the hood, you know something's ticking or knocking, and you know about where it's at. So when you open the hood, you know exactly where to go to do that fine tuning, get it right back running like a well-oiled machine. I use that word a lot, and it's because God put that in me. I'm telling you, people think I'm crazy. I don't care. God talks to me on a regular basis. In my own mind, through people, through signs, through
100%.
books, through conversations like this, God talks to me. And one day, loud and clear in my own mind, I know it didn't come from my mind because I would have never thought this and never would have repeated it in the way that it was repeating in my mind was your business must run like a well-oiled machine.
Yep.
Your business must run like a well-oiled machine. And that still echoes in my mind. It still is playing this loop. Your business is running like a well-oiled machine. Is it running like a well-oiled machine? How can I get it to run better? That
Right.
well-oiled machine needs to run better, right? Longer. So, anyways, as there's a few of those that God
Yeah.
has put in my
100.
spirit, obviously my mind, but it's on a spiritual level that I can't unhear it, and then I'm driven towards it to
Mhm.
make sure that I'm the best steward of what He's given to me.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Taking those tools that he's given you, the visions that he's allowed you to see, because it's going to be different. There's a million leadership programs. There's a million things, but the people that are meant to come to you, like for me, I've always been. You just don't know when God's going to put you in. He's the big coach. Doesn't know when he's going to put you in. I mean, I remember there was one time because I was a recovery coach walking down Manhattan, not doing just minding my own business, trying to get to the office, and somebody had overdosed. And luckily, I had an old package of Narcan in there. I saved their life. There's no way that I zip zag through Manhattan, and you've been in Manhattan, and those who have, no, you can walk from Penn Station to the East Side, which is on the other side of Manhattan, for those who don't know, a million different ways, up and down streets, depending on the lights.
Mm-hmm.
Then I walked into that couple, and he was like, "You got to help me, you got to help me." And I go, "What did she use?" Which is a word, not again, it's just our language, the language we use. And he looked at me. I go, "I got Narcan. What did she use?" He goes, "That might help." I go, "Let's do it." And even though it was old, it was expired, it still will help. And it did help her to at least get the EMS to come to take care of her. And then I was out of there. But God will put you in the right positions. He'll give you the right visions and the right stories when you look at it. When I help people write books, that's what they do. They're all like, "Well, I got one story." I'm like, "Nah, you do have more than one story. We all have more than one story in us. It
Oh
just
yeah.
is seeing that vision. How do you learn? How do you know how to trust the vision versus what you want, right? There's a lot of times that we know what we want, right? Some people might just want the shiny lights. And I know you're not a shiny light person. You like nice things, but not a shiny light person. How do you know when the things are human wishes versus some from God or where else?
You know, and I struggle with that. As far I say struggle, it's a it's a conversation between me and God. That's what I mean by having a relationship with Him because, and I mentioned this earlier in our talk, that God will block things that we're not meant to go. And when I catch a vision, and I speak about it being spiritual, I believe if God will let me see it like it's real right here in front of me, it was meant for me. Okay. That's how deep I visualize about what it is I'm building. And it's a push and a calling that's deeper than me.
Mm.
So there is checks and balances I do, obviously. That's why I say it's kind of like a struggle because I'm like, is this me? Is this my flesh? And sometimes it is. Sometimes I'm like, okay, maybe that's not what I was supposed to do exactly. God, give me direction. There's seven spirits. I don't know if you know this. Seven spirits of the Lord. Doesn't mean he's seven different spirits. It's in the book of Isaiah. So let's go through the seven spirits real quick and let's figure out if you're operating with a relationship with God and how he interacts with us in seven different ways. You'll be able to point out kind of the ways that he'll push you back in your lane if it's you instead of
Mm.
you and him together. Okay. So you got the Spirit of the Lord. So that's when I feel like he speaks directly to me. That's the thing that I was talking about where the well-oiled machine, it was just like it's playing in this loop and it was loud and it was more on the spiritual level. It was a spiritual charge to that. Okay. That's the Spirit of the Lord, I believe. Okay. Then you got the might of the Lord or the strength of the Lord. Okay. That's those times when you feel like things are too heavy for you to carry. You call on the Spirit of strength or might, that's where supernaturally he'll pick you up. He'll push you through seasons of your life that you didn't realize you can make it through. Here's something I like to point out a lot is that when you look back, you realize that God has brought you through 100% of your bad days,
Hmm.
right?
100%.
100%. I believe the Spirit of might is a reason for that, right? Especially if you call on it, it'll show up. So there's a spirit of knowledge, wisdom, and understanding. How many are we up to right now?
3. We're on 3.
No, those are three different spirits: knowledge, wisdom, and understanding.
Right.
And then you have spirit of might and the spirit of the Lord, right? So
That's
we're
right.
at 5.
We're at 5.
So spirit of knowledge is different than spirit of wisdom.
Right. For sure.
Same with the spirit of understanding. There are things that I will never understand unless it was revealed to me by God. I couldn't read it in a book, knowledge. I couldn't have had the experience over time, wisdom, right? Only God could have revealed these things to me, the spirit of revelation or spirit of understanding. Spirit of counsel.
Mm.
All right. So yeah, you see where I'm going with all this, right? You see that each one is an attribute of how he interacts with us according to our human needs. So we cover them all basically. And I don't want to spend too much time on this. I just feel like somebody out here needs to hear this.
100. This is good stuff. Yeah, this is
This
great.
this
Oh,
this is what when I had my spiritual awakening, when I had that rock bottom moment, I called on all 7 of these spirits. I haven't even named them all yet. I've only named 6. The fear of the Lord is number 7. Now, a lot of people think the fear of the Lord is trembling and like, oh my God, I'm afraid of God. No, no, no. It's a little bit different than that. The spirit of fear of the Lord means I'm afraid to not be connected.
mm.
I'm afraid to not, I'm getting chills.
Yep.
I'm afraid not to have this dialogue with him daily. He's my counselor. He's my strength. He's the one that leads me, guides me, helps me understand things I would have never understood on my own. And I'm afraid not to have that connection. So what is sin? Simple term, simple definition is separation from God. That's all
Right.
it means. We
Mhm.
think is sin. I'm supposed to be shamed and all that. No, no. Jesus walked with some of the most vile individuals of his time and some of the craziest nook and cranny, hole in the wall bars, watering holes or whatever. I don't know what they called them back then, but with degenerates. Because what he was showing them was you are just separated from God. You're not to be shamed. Go and sin no more. He told the lady that was obviously sinning, that they had in their minds, the Pharisees had all rights to stone her because of what they caught her doing. They wanted to shame her and stone her to death. And they wanted Jesus to be involved. They thought it was a trap for him, but he flipped the script. He did the reverse Uno on these Pharisees. He said the first without sin should cast the first stone. And they all dropped their stone.
Right. They all knew, you know.
They all knew because we all separate ourselves from God. But the fear, because once you have a relationship with him, there should be a fear. of not keeping that source open.
100%. I always agree. Again, using my own faith, I've always been like, God, I tell God exactly. If you're going to tell me I can't do X, Y, Z ever again, eat pork, right? So in Judaism, pork, right? Bacon. Sorry, that's not going to happen. That's something that I'm willing to agree with God. And there's a whole long loan of stuff because of that. But am I going to be a good person? That's not non-negotiable. I know when I talk to God, I don't lie to God because He knows what's in my heart. He knows, it's not one of those things that I could walk over to, oh, Jeremy, you're my buddy, you're this and that, and then I'm trying to do something else. No, God knows what's in my heart. Why would I say something to somebody who I care about that's not authentic? And God, you have to be your most authentic self with God because He's going to know right away. You
Yeah,
can't fool Him. You can lie to Him. There's no reason to it, but then that's that separating yourself. I love that
yeah, he weighs our heart.
for sure.
He weighs our heart for sure, and that's how integrity in what we do should be with the right heart posture.
100%. Okay. Well, I know we've taken a lot of your time, and I don't want to separate you from all the other things that you have to do. But I usually have a part of the podcast where I say, let's walk into the magic garden today. And I'd love you to plant one seed that maybe other people need to water, something that you want them to remember and like a takeaway. Do you have something like that?
Oh man, and 100%. Um, One of the things that God was ringing loud in my ear years ago. I already mentioned one of them, but I believe this will help somebody out there for sure. Maybe even you is kind of playing off what you just said, plant the seed in the garden. Water your own grass.
Mm,
The grass is not greener on the other side by itself. Somebody watered that grass, so just water your own.
yeah, yeah. No, that's a wonderful statement because no matter what somebody else has done, and, oh, you're lucky you got some breaks. No, you worked hard for that. Lottery, okay, I'll give you if you won the lottery, that's something that's not, you can't plan. Well, you did. You still
Somebody,
played.
I was gonna say, somebody
You
had
had
to
to buy
work.
a ticket, right? You had to put that hope.
Yeah, yeah. Somebody bought the tickets for that. They were putting in the work. They're watering their grass in that direction. Didn't say that's all. Everybody should do that. That's
No, that's right. It's
not a
not.
good
It's not a
technique.
great system to, again, looking at your systems. It's not the system for success.
That's
Uh,
right. That's right.
how can everybody find you?
So www.moxymindset.com. That's the best way you can get a hold of me. Book a call through that source.
All right, awesome. Well, my friend, thank you so much for all your time. I don't want to take more. I know you're probably on to a million other things, and I appreciate the time that you did make for us. And we'll definitely have you on again as long as you're willing. And you had a great time.
100%. Love what you're doing, so keep going.
All right, you got it. And for everybody else, I always wish you peace and love. And when you do bring a bat, remember it's being authentic today. Be who you are, and also hit your sweet spot. Wish you all a good day and God bless.